So there's no denying it, Microsoft Flight Simulator is truly a work of art. However, there are some downfalls. Today I'll be sharing with you some Microsoft Flight Simulator add-ons to step up the realism and make the game look even more beautiful. Be sure to stay tuned for the second one because honestly that is a lifesaver, but we'll get into that in a minute. If you're new around here, be sure to like, comment and subscribe for Microsoft Flight Simulator and aviation content. And as always, guess what airport I'm taking off from now? It's quite a difficult one this time. I'll give you a hint, it is in Europe. Now you would have thought for a flight simulator I would not be talking about boats. However, here we are. Now this add-on is called Global AI Ship Traffic for Microsoft Flight Simulator and it is version 1. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It adds a variety of different boats all around the world to the sim. Now you might think this is a relatively small thing and it's not really going to improve the realism for me, but trust me it will. Just flying around these seas, it looks a lot more alive, it looks really nice. Now it doesn't just stop at default boring old cruise ships, it adds aircraft carriers, destroyers, oil tankers, tugs, container ships, bulk carriers, patrol boats to submarines, destroyers and aircraft carriers. More than 1,300 models are placed on routes all over the world and it goes off specific ferry lines, etc. In addition to that, you'll find full naval exercises off the coast of numerous regions, from a full-scale NATO exercise on the west coast of Denmark to the Chinese Navy doing it in their area. And overall, more than 24,000 ship movements. It certainly ensures that the oceans are no longer quiet. Now for this to work, pop it into your community file, of course, unzip it. It's quite a big download coming in at 1.2 gigabytes. Ensure your traffic settings for ships and ferries is at 5% or more. It doesn't matter really after 5%, just be sure to put it on 5%. I mean, this really is a must-have. I cannot recommend it enough. Even around my local area, it's beautiful. We have got Felixstowe, one of the world's largest container ports here, so there's a lot of boats sailing in the sea around me. Now the developers have done a fantastic job. Some of you may also recognise these, as these are not native Microsoft Flight Simulator models. They were converted over from previous Flight Simulator X P3D models. Now sadly at the moment the models don't have hard decks, so you cannot treat the aircraft carrier like an aircraft carrier, but this is coming in future updates. Certainly something to look out for. With over 24,000 boats sailing around the seas, I mean it does populate the sea and of course makes it look a lot more realistic. Now in my eyes the most simple add-ons are always the most effective, and this is certainly the case with this one. This is the Vegetation Draw Distance Fix by Propeller BC, and I have to say it really does do the trick. It increases the vegetation draw distance. You may be wondering what exactly is that? Well basically it is the distance of which the game renders in vegetation such as trees and grass. For example, when you're flying along, especially VFR, you may notice that when you look to the distance, and not overly far to be honest, there is no more trees, they disappear and you just see the ground imagery, and most of the time that doesn't look very nice. Now this does two things. It not only fixes that, but it also can reduce the size of the tree. Now you get 4 choices of this. You get Draw Fix 75 to 100. Now this keeps the default tree sizes and renders the trees the furthest. You also get 75 to 100 but with smaller trees. This does what the previous version did, but reduces the trees by 10%, as in size. You also have 50 to 75. This keeps the default Microsoft Flight Simulator tree and renders the trees a bit shorter, but because of this there are less pop-ups. Some of you may be familiar with when you're flying along and you see kind of stuff pop out of the ground. That's what they're referring to here. And you also have 50 to 75 with smaller trees. This does what the last one did, but of course makes the trees smaller. We're looking at the trees with the draw fix enabled, and this is using 75 to 100 with smaller trees, and you can see how beautiful it looks. Now luckily, the developer also provided us with some screenshots to compare. On the screen now we've got the default level of detail at 200, which is the highest it can go. And you can see, looking at the mountains in the background, there's no trees on them. As soon as you enable the distance draw fix, you can see the trees pop up even with the 50 to 75 option. They go even further when you increase the level of detail. to 200 in settings, and of course even further when you use the further packs. It's really simple to install, just drop it in your community file and delete it when you don't want to use it. Personally, I always keep it on. I took it around for a test in the Piper PA-28 by Just Flight, and I have to say it really does make the game look a lot more realistic, because of course in real life you can see all the trees, and while it's not perfect and there's still many times where you'll be able to see no trees, it does honestly guys really make the game look a lot better. I highly recommend it. So there we have it, 2 add-ons you need to really improve the beauty of your game. I recommend both of them of course, get them now, the links are in the description. If you want to make your sim look nicer, then these really are the 2 you need. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Check out my Amazon affiliate links for all the equipment I use to fly on Microsoft Flight Simulator and record these videos. And if you want to support the channel, also consider becoming a channel member for exclusive perks. I'd like to give a shout out to my business class members and of course first class members. My first class members get a shout out at the end of every video, so here we go. Thank you to Captain Matt Russell, Penguin He Plays TV, Simon Schmidt 320, BK Concretes Limited and Whiskey 2 Shots. There we have it guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video, but from me today, that is all, bye bye.